Hey guys, I think we're streaming. I think we're good to go. This is gonna be a weird show. Basically, I have nothing set, so I'm gonna wait for people to trickle into the chat, and then we're gonna start sort of like a dialogue about death. And this is not gonna be some kind of morbid thing. This is more like sort of I want to take sort of like a sci-fi geek kind of approach to death. So what I want to do is I want to explore some theories, maybe some, if you're more religious, maybe some of those ideas and ideologies and what your belief system is about what happens when you die. Maybe some scientific theories, maybe some sci-fi theories about what happens when you die. Now I grew up Catholic, so when in Catholicism, Christianity, when you die, you go to heaven or you go to hell or maybe purgatory. But I grew up pretty. I mean, I can't say I was super religious. I can't say my family was super religious, but I was definitely into the idea of heaven and hell, and going to either when you died. And I thought I as I got older, I realized I don't know if I really believed in it, or if I just thought the imagery was super interesting, because I used to draw what I thought heaven and hell looked like. I thought I drew like how people were sort of born and chosen from heaven to come. I had like these really, even as a kid, I had these sort of abstract ideas about what death and birth was, and so I guess my approach hasn't changed to what I think happens when you die. I still sort of think about it abstractly, and just to be clear, this is not going to be like, I'm not telling you like this is what's happening, this is what it is. This is just supposed to be fun theorizing about death, which is a scary thing for a lot of people, and I mean myself included, who doesn't have some sort of existential angst. People that seize the day, it's almost they're living in spite of death, which is fine. Any way you choose to live your life is fine, but it's like almost everything is just doing it around it. And I think it's because the conversation about it is kind of strange. It's kind of strange. I don't think it's just the conversation. It's the whole mystery, the mystery of the unknown of what happens next, if anything at all. But I really want to dive into some theories. So hopefully we get some people that come into the chat and share their ideas and their theories about it. But I'm gonna sort of just I'm gonna get the ball rolling a little bit, and maybe we'll have some people come in. Maybe we won't. Maybe this will sort of be a little like sort of a dead stream, which is okay because it is Saturday night, and I expect people to be out doing things, unlike me. But plenty of people spend their Saturday nights on the internets, and it's a fine thing. You can have a lot of fun. So without any further ado, which is the whole thing is going to be adieu, literally adieu, goodbye. Let's see. So I'm gonna start riffing, and all this is gonna be riffing of some sort. Again, and as people trickle in, please start sharing your theories about what happens, or what your feelings are about what your approach to is, your perspective of what happens and what death is and how it impacts you and the way you think about it to sort of cope or get out of like sort of existential angst, because I used to deal with it a lot, and only recently have I been able to sort of work with it or around it. thanks to like art and working on and reading a lot of sort of science books and sort of delving into metaphysics and all that stuff. And I'm not super book smart and, you know, well versed in all the happenings of, you know, the universe and what we're studying. I did go to the Museum of Natural History recently, and I went to the one second. How am I blanking on this? I went to the Museum of Natural History and went to the Hayden Planetarium and watched a sort of like a movie on dark matter, and, you know, of course, narrated by Mr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, who is great, and I love what he's doing with the world of science. He's sort of, I mean, he's doing what Bill Nye did, except sort of with, you know, outer space. Bill Nye touched on it, but I feel like now you have Bill Nye, who I feel like is definitely more earthbound, and then you have Neil deGrasse Tyson, who's like up in the stars, which is a great, you know, great two perspectives to have, two sets of knowledge to have, and, you know, to have them bring it to a wide audience is super important. James, I have not seen What Dreams May Come, but I have seen the movie, but I haven't seen the movie since I was a kid, which probably, you know, didn't help with the existential dread, but it's fine. Reggie, I know it can be a scary topic. That's why I decided to do this, because I wanted to sort of it's a little self-serving, but I wanted to kind of talk about it, and sort of have fun, if that's even possible. Just like sort of riff ideas of what, you know, people think happens, because, you know, I subscribe to the idea that I have no freaking clue. that's my whole thing. So I just sort of, you know, go back and forth with a lot of ideologies and, you know, theories and concepts, and try to, you know, I kind of attach myself to the ones I think is the most interesting and coolest and most abstract. But that's because, you know, my brain just like sort of gravitates to those things, when it might be something super simple like heaven, you know, and hell and purgatory and all that stuff. James, if you don't mind sharing, I'd be interested to know what physics. I don't remember if they addressed it in the movie. Again, I haven't seen it in probably 10 years. Jason, the sun is full of dark matter. But what is dark matter? That's something I really I'm curious about. I mean, from what I remember when I saw that sort of that thing at the Hayden Planetarium, it's almost like a web, like a cosmic web. And it's super interesting to see, to think sort of like on a micro level that everything is connected in some way, and, you know, things could be, you know, electricity could be firing and moving information on a very, very micro level, and it's super interesting to think that like the universe is sort of just wired. Everything on a very like massive and micro level, that everybody and everything is wired somehow. Like there's just like these unseen things connecting everything, literally, like everything that would be connected is, and this is what sort of getting the ball rolling about death, and it's like. Without sort of, you know, dehumanizing people and stuff. I mean, people are important. You could say people are important. But I think there's a lot. And I know a lot of you guys are here from, you know, my Twin Peaks videos and stuff. But it's a lot of it, I think, does have to do with electricity. At least some of it. I mean, everything has to do with electricity, of course, but, you know, there's so many like little synapses that happen when you die, and there's a lot of chemicals that go to your brain. One of the ideas theories that fascinates me, and I think could totally happen. I mean, in addition to a lot of other things, which is sort of the idea that death is almost like this like this grandiose thing. It might not be, but I think it's just like out of the depth of our imagination. But I kind of subscribe to the Inception theory at this point in time. I've just been thinking about it a lot. That the moment like we die, we have all these chemicals that are released in our brains, which sort of induce, like, can induce sort of a dream state. And if we know how, time and dreams work and stuff like that, just imagine like you're just going deeper, and then you die there and you go even deeper. And so like in the minute between like when you're supposed to die and the actual death, you just live like almost an infinite amount of lifetimes in that, whatever that is in your brain. You're just constantly like going into these sub levels of your unconscious and just living there until it's time to stop. And now I don't know when that is, if that ever happens. Maybe you just in this world you go, but like you're still in all these other timelines or different worlds within your subconscious, and everybody exists, everybody sort of is real in these things, and they also branch off, and it's just like this deep web that just goes down and forever. And it's it's super complicated and almost a little bit overwhelming to think about, but it kind of plays into the whole we live inside a dream thing. It's like you're just sort of, you're part of this web. You're in somebody else's dream who's in somebody else's dream. Like you could play with that idea, like that Twin Peaks idea, that we're all just part of somebody else's dream, and the dream, it's like a nesting doll kind of thing. Okay, James says, well, it's a lot to go into, but the idea of different stages of death, the way the world outside affects afterlife, there was a part describing death being the first step to the afterlife. And then the death of the soul, each have a cord that needs to be cut to ascend. My favorite quote about death is, it's just a change ever so slightly more radical than puberty. That's pretty funny. I like that. It seems like it. It's just like a step. I mean, it's hard for us that, are living, but these people are just, by whatever means, they're going on to whatever next step it is. Trivia Brain says, when is the point between life and death? That is the question. That is a good question. Like I said, if you subscribe to sort of like, I'm calling it the Inception theory. I don't know if there's like an actual name for it, if somebody else has like thought of this. This is just, what I've been working with, and I've been calling it the Inception theory, that we just like sort of just live in this well of our mind. And then and we come from other people's, wells. It's just this never ending thing that just expands and grows. And the thing is, when they say, when you could, I guess it could be possible that you meet people. I mean, this gets super abstract, but when they say you'll like meet your relatives in the afterlife, it's totally possible. You might meet them again. Because of the way everything is connected, that information might transfer. I know this is super abstract, and I'm sorry if I'm losing some of you guys, but it might be wishful thinking on my part. You could just say that you die and it's like that's it, but there's just so much unseen and unknown about this that you could really just theorize until you die. So. Put Dan Millman on your lookup list. Excellent pseudo-philosophy writer. I shall do that, James. Thanks. Plus, cognition is being described as a 7 dimensions per new science. Yes, I've heard about this. I haven't explored it. I haven't read too much about it. But I have heard about this. Maybe I should touch on it before I describe the matter. But it's always fun to sort of just theorize on your own before taking in a lot of this stuff. You reach new places on your own, and I think that's kind of the fun of it. Not in a dark way, but I think it can be pretty fun. So I don't know. I'm like really into this like web theory of like sort of the dream and within a dream within a dream, and it branches out, and everybody sort of just is moved in some way, whether it's like this consciousness is moved into like this other place via some kind of web of electricity. It's super abstract, but this whole web thing, I think people just live in infinity, but in the moment between life and death. The death of the body at least. And the brain is just this crazy mechanism that we don't completely understand yet. I don't know if we ever will. We can try to, pretend, and we can try to get it close, but I think, I don't know, guys. It's just, there's so much I think that happens that we don't know, and we obviously our perspective is limited. I mean, every day we remember things differently, and we see things that might not be true to what's actually physically in front of us, because our brains are just telling us different things and all the time. So I used to be pretty atheist, and I used to be pretty sure that nothing at all happens when you're dead. You just died and that's it. And then I'm like, well, that's kind of dismissive, even from like an atheistic perspective. So I don't even know if I'd say I'm agnostic or anything. I don't know. I just have no idea. I'm at a loss for what happens. I just like thinking about it because it helps with life a little bit. If you feel like you have some sort of idea, although you're probably so very far from the truth. There's actually this sort of metaphor. I forgot the name of the doctor that described it. I watched the whole thing on sort of quantum mechanics and stuff, and I believe it's called big toe little toe theory, or it's sort of like a metaphor, and it's like everything we know and everything we can know and ever will know is the little toe, is like our pinky toe. And the truth, the absolute truth, is the big toe. And obviously this is better on a foot, but I'm not going to show you my feet because that would be weird. On a thing about death, showing my feet is going to be the weirdest thing, obviously. James Blanton says, anytime someone can see clearly, remind them Earth has a shrimp that sees 3 additional colors. That's right. I forgot about that shrimp, yo. See, that's a perfect example. Like, we're just so out of our depth. And I think to fight it is foolish. Walton says, I consider myself a skeptic, but also I'll believe anything given plausible evidence. Okay. Besides, we never know what's out there. We need to keep our minds open. Dismissing isn't science. Exactly. I mean, you could... Not to upset anybody that that's religious or Christian. You could say maybe this whole Jesus and God thing, and God is an abstract kind of idea too. That could happen on a parallel timeline where magic exists, and I don't know. I'm getting sidetracked here, but yeah, that's a good. I think, I don't know. I feel more satisfied in knowing I know nothing about all of this, and not assuming I know. It's way more comforting to me that I don't know, because it's like out of my hands. And the other thing I came to terms with, and I don't know if other people do, but it's like it's probably for the best that I don't know. If like suddenly my brain was like, all right, we're going to show you everything. We're going to show you everything right now. My brain would probably melt. My eyes would probably melt. We might not. It's just like so wild, out of our wildest dreams and depth, and like ability to perceive and calculate. It's like, do we really want to know what comes next? Do we? James says, there is, of course, the notion of belief affecting your afterlife radically, with some cross-section, maybe making every religion right all at one. Belief is in the eye of the beholder. Socrates said, all I know is that I know nothing. Yes, that's the quote that sort of woke me up from this very bitter, like jaded, like nothing happens after this. That's it. That I read that quote and I'm like, this is this is the absolute truth. And we know things on our earthly level, on our human level. We understand things, even space a little bit. But then, like, what is space? Like, you could just get into another, like, what if, what is, what? Just ask all the questions, and it's like, it's good to explore. It's good to find, but I think everything is just going to be in our realm of comprehension. I don't think we're going to be able to, I don't know. I don't want to dismiss it because, you never know. We can unlock, like, who knows? Trivia Brain says you can't disprove the concept of an afterlife. It's possible that we could go to a fifth dimension plane, possibly. I mean, like, it's a lot. It's a lot. But I like talking about it in a way that's not just, mournful and dark and just in there. I want to talk about it like it's a thing, like a scientific thing. I think it's a much better conversation. So thank you guys for joining, by the way. I know there's not a huge crowd in here, but I do appreciate all of you. And I've seen most of you many times, especially over on the Twin Peaks videos. So thanks for hanging out. Wilton says, myself, I believe there's some sort of God. He must be having a laugh. The evidence points towards a sadistic God, if any. James says you need some Alan Watts. He's very thought-provoking. I think that is the guy. Hold on. That name rings a bell. If he's the guy with the big beard. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I know Alan Watts. But I do need to check out more of his stuff. But I have ventured into Watts territory. That you could go with the idea that all right, cool, legend. You could go with the idea that you find monotheism to be boring. But here's the thing with monotheism. I think it's almost like a you could say that our God is the dream. Like, even in Twin Peaks terms, you could say our God, whoever that is the dreamer who's created this world. If you're going back to the idea of we're all sort of branching off from, like, other, beings, you could say he's the dreamer and we're the branch, and then we're our own gods within and all that kind of thing. But I don't know. It's really, honestly, whatever gets you through the day, gets you through life here. I definitely I only became atheist once I hit my 20s or maybe teens, late teens. Because I do like the sort of philosophical stuff in religion, and I think it's good for people to, like, when you take the good stuff from it, you could, pick and choose what you want to take from the Bible. And we see a lot of people using that, in the wrong kind of way. Wilton says that what you're saying, Joey, is the Platonic and Gnostic concept of the creator as a demiurge. I have to look up that word. You guys are way more on it than I am. Demiurge. Let's see if we could... A being responsible for the creation of the universe, in particular, the maker or creator of the world. Oh, yeah, duh. A heavenly being subordinate to the supreme being that is considered to be the controller of the material world. See, I didn't even know there was a word for that, so thank you. Yeah, I guess that's what I'm describing. Jason says, look, I don't know anything for sure, but cosmology tells us the universe is expanding. Expanding into what? Goosebumps. Yes, it is. Well, there's also a theory that the universe is sort of like almost going to be like sort of an elastic where it's going to expand. Like, when you fill a balloon and then it's going to begin to, some people think it's, if you, you know, subscribe to the idea that it's sort of in a bubble, that it might contract and everything might just come back in and just create like this almost implosion. I don't know. That's, it could just be like expanding ever outward, and, you know, we don't know if it's going to hit a wall or what. Looking at reality as a fractal plane, we are God as well as the bottom of that scale. That's sort of how I see it. Going on that theory, we're probably not the first universe. I think we're so far from it. I don't even like. And then you go, if you want to go into sort of how time works, if you want to go first to last. I mean, I don't like. How does time work into all of this? That's something I have not even touched, because you know like we perceive time. We're very time oriented beings. That's how we see things happen linearly. But like, what if time is just like not? It's not considered. It's not. If you have this massive being that's affecting it, time is actually going by our physics. It's not gonna, you know, affect this being the same way it affects us if there is a being or whatever the thing is. It's just not gonna be proportionate. So like time might exist on our plane, but like it's just so it's something, I don't know. Like I'm having a hard time even finding the words or the idea. James says, good point. It's much better thinking of time as the sand in an ever-spinning hourglass. It's like going upwards and downwards and, you know, in throughout. The way time affects us probably doesn't affect the people up there, because we're messed with by gravity and all that kind of stuff, revolution to the sun. We just sort of, it's mathematical for us. And they say the universe is everything can be figured out with mathematics in the universe. Obviously, we don't have the math yet, or else we would have figured it out. Who knows what that equation looks like? And it's funny because there's a lot of people that search for the meaning of life, which I think is super. I mean, I used to be one of those people as well, but I think I feel like it's a point now that it's just like the meaning is what you give it. I feel like it's like that idea is super simple now. James says, Jesus, I wish your channel existed when I used to take hallucinogenics. Believe it or not, I don't do drugs. I don't do any drugs. This is all fresh insanity. I don't know what's wrong with me. Trivia Brain says, I go by the concept that time does not exist but was created to understand the world around us. Yeah, it's basic. I see it simply as a way to, mark things. This happened then. It's just sort of to keep track of the days. And I mean, it goes back to when the early people, when they used to hunt and, crops and all. It's just a way to keep tabs so when you could eat to survive. It was created for survival. It's just a way to take a note, so when this happens again, you'll like be ready. Which I guess is sort of the same way we use it now, but time is sort of like an antiquated concept. I think like I try to get to a place where, like, what if we didn't measure time the way we do? How would people interact with the world today? Would it be the same? I'm sure if there were time, if we didn't have clocks, if we didn't go by 24 hours in a day, if we didn't celebrate our birthdays every year, what would that world look like? It's so interesting to me. Would we even be having this conversation? Probably not. Maybe humans might have not lasted this long if it wasn't for our concept or, notation of time and the passage of days and, movements around the sun. Maybe it's time is why we've gotten as far as like sort of a species, because we understand time and we understand, you know, the way things work. It's a tool. It's a really useful tool, especially when the human race was coming up, when they were making their way. It's just another. It was probably the best tool. It wasn't a physical tool. It was just the ability to understand that things happen in sort of a pattern, at least at first, in a way to survive. So it's so interesting, and it's time has become a little bit more. I don't know if it was more abstract then or more abstract now. It's kind of funny because it's during. I don't know if you guys have seen Wonder Woman, but there's a scene where she's talking to Chris Pine's character, and she goes, and he shows her a watch, and she's like, "You let that little thing tell you what to do and where to go?" And it's funny, and he goes like, "Yeah." So we might have found another way to, another tool, but time was the tool of the time. So that's what we went with, and I guess it hasn't changed since, really. Again, you get into daylight savings time and all that kind of stuff, and it kind of makes you skeptical of the whole idea, and it's like, okay, sure. We'll go with that because that's, we've been doing it forever. Nobody's going to change the way time works now. That would change the way the world works, like in a huge way. If it'd be super interesting to see, or to sort of see that played with. James says sci-fi novels go involving realistic travel where you lose whatever you leave. Like in Ender's Game, when he spends 30 years going at the speed of light, he finally drops out 1,000,000 years past. Yeah, I mean, sort of same thing happens in Planet of the Apes, I guess. He just goes, to the future by, going around the planet a whole bunch of times. I don't know at what speed, but obviously it's going a lot slower for him because he's going so quick. If you watch The Flash, there's those kind of physics at play there too, and when he moves, faster the speed of light, everything is just. Time can be dilated by gravity and velocity. Yeah, I mean, sci-fi has told us that. I mean, one of my favorite books, movies of all time is The Time Machine. It's just so interesting because when we talk about death, a lot of times we talk about time, which is, I guess the way the measurement of time is a human construct, but time, like things actually, happen on a stars die and stuff like that. So there's definitely like a beginning and an end to things, a beginning and an end, whatever the hell that means. Because you could say the stars dying was what created humans. So was that the beginning of the star? When it was it like sort of just an egg hatching to burst out whatever is needed for life? So it's really the way you, your perception of what happens. So I'm like losing track because this is just so much. This is like a lot of brainy stuff, and we're doing it very superficially. I mean, we haven't gone into any deep theories. It's just it's cool to think about, and then it gets your mind going, and you go on all these crazy tangents and whatnot. But it'd be interesting to know how death and time work together. If there is some sort of, cooperation between a sort of progression in time, and I don't know. You guys have to let me know what you think. I don't know. I want to say that they're like exactly like the time and gravity and velocity, but again, I feel like time can be distorted by perception. I mean, time is still happening, but time on certain psychological levels can be distorted. And time affects people differently depending on what, like, where you live. It's a lot. There's so many variables with time. It's so strange. And it's almost like if we were to go back to that sort of Inception theory that I shared earlier, of like it's almost like you're given this much amount of time. It's like the moment of all those chemicals releasing into your brain and like this sort of dream consciousness state happening, and then here's where you live. Who knows how long? Like what dictates the beginning of this and the end of this? Or is this the time of transference of some kind of energy or electricity into whatever is? I mean, I don't want to say this energy is being transferred through dark matter, but for where we are in space and time, I'm going to say this electricity is transmitted somewhere out into the ether. Now, is consciousness, is a spirit exist? Is this like just like almost like a DNA sort of transmitted? So like maybe we are ourselves, our soul selves somewhere. It's super interesting to think of maybe the soul as having DNA, because that kind of changes the game. And I know this is really abstract, but like person's likeness or subconscious or whatever the soul is, if you believe in the soul, which I think there is some sort of something there. I don't know what it is, but I think there's something there. It'd be interesting to have the electrical signals that are you have some sort of information that transmits, but it goes somewhere. It's super interesting to think of. Maybe there's just so much information on a micro level that like we just don't know where we end up. We could end up anywhere. We could end up in somebody else's subconscious. We could end up on a different planet, or a different universe, depending on how that actually works. Maybe it just like can transmit through whatever the multiverse, if that string theory and all that stuff is like a thing. We could go into different dimensions via little electricity streams, and it's just insane. What do you think about the Schrödinger's cat in relation to death? I mean, again, you have to sort of define what life and death are. I think, if I'm sort of processing this right. What do you think about Schrödinger's cat in relation to death? I mean, Schrödinger's cat, I'm assuming most of you guys know, because y'all seem to be on that level. But it's the experiment where a cat was put in a box with a vial of poison, and closed. And now this vial could either break free and the cat would die, or the cat could just be living there happily. But you would never know unless you open the box. But the thing is, do you want to know that if the cat lived or died? Is it something you like? Do you want to know? You might get good news, you might get bad news, and then again, it's like, how much were you attached to the cat? Did you like this cat? Did you hate this cat? What's wrong with you? No, I'm just kidding. But trivia. I said this before. I don't know if we'd be able to, like, my brain is like, I could feel it working, just having this conversation. Imagine if I find out what happens when we die. That would, I don't know if this like little mushy pink thing in my head would be able to understand. It might be too much, or it might just be like sort of like an ayahuasca trip or something. I don't know. You might just like ascend and be with like the spirit people and like the weird hand lady that I heard some people describe. Who knows? I don't know if I want to know. I don't know if I want to open the box. Maybe when I'm older, maybe I want to know for sure. Maybe I would open the box and my brain would pop, or I'd be like, oh, okay, that's exactly what everybody's been saying it was. So you don't really know, but I don't think I want to know. I did at one point, and then I resigned to it altogether. I said, nothing happens. And now that I'm a little bit older, I say I don't know what happens. I just don't know, and I don't think I want to know. It's the final mystery, right? James says, I know this much. If I die and David Bowie is there as a tea kettle, I'm going to cry. I'll open that for you. It's slippery in here. I hope it would be. I actually read a book, where, spoilers, they wrote David Bowie as as God himself or itself. He sort of manifested himself. It's a cool book. I read it in high school, which was a decade ago. But it was a cool book where this character, she dies, and she meets David Bowie, who is God, who is the creator. And he's sort of like he's David Bowie. He's sort of everything. He could be a little devilish. He could be debonair. He could be really comforting. He could be a little abrasive. It's a cool book. It's called Muffy, A Transmigration of Selves. It's not for the faint of heart, but I feel like you guys would dig it. I read it in high school, and I was like, it tickled my brain. So it's on Amazon. It's an indie book, not well known at all, but and the book has so many like glaring editorial errors. It's pretty funny, but it's interesting to say the least. So again, maybe when you die, maybe you meet David Bowie. Maybe he was trying to maybe he had a lot of work to catch up on. He's been on Earth a little bit too long. So he went and, caught up on all the paperwork he had to do. Who knows? Maybe it manifests itself as whatever you want. Maybe it takes your final like image or wish or belief, and you are launched off into that stratosphere by something. Ted Belcher says, if you give a man a fish, he'll eat it for a day. If you give Chuck Norris a fish, he'll kill you with it, because Chuck had no need for food. He sustained from the blood of his enemies. I haven't heard a Chuck Norris joke in quite some time. Also, there's a fish in the percolator. Percolator. There's a fish in the percolator. I also had coffee like an hour ago, so I'm a little energized. So yeah, I realize we're already on 40 minutes, which is wild. And I feel like we didn't even touch the surface of what this could be. We're not going to solve death in a 40-minute stream. Mario says, what happened? Mario, you're going to have to go back and watch, you're going to have to go back and watch the stream, man. CP Gray got you down? I don't know what that is. James says, yes, night coffee. I have night coffee all the time. Probably more than my body would like, because I don't sleep properly these days anyway. Sometimes I get a sort of a drive and I want to do things until 3 o'clock in the morning, but again, that time always getting, because I have to wake up in this very earthly, ungodly hour of 8 o'clock during the week, which is, I'd like to do away with our concept of time so I could wake up whenever I please if it works that way. But I think the sun going up and down kind of throws that off, because our brains are programmed to accept that cycle and, jive with it. We are not necessarily nocturnal creatures, although some of us wish we were. But it comes, I love talking about, death and space and stuff, but like human beings, are just so, they're so, I used to not romanticize, being an earth creature. I used to think, oh, humans are dumb or incapable or silly little things. But I think you have to kind of romanticize it, or else you're just gonna be sad and upset all the time and trying to get somewhere else, which is fine, because like, who didn't dream of being like an astronaut as a kid? But this is all still on our plane. Like, we're still trying to get to Mars. Elon Musk might get us there in the next couple of years. But who knows? Who knows with the way things are going? Who knows? Ted Belcher says 13 on trending. Why die? Almost 2 million views. Come on, let's get me on the trending page. That would be astronomical. We'll put this kind of conversation into the stratosphere, without the the squeaky clean kind of persona that YouTube seems to have. This is just a dude in his bedroom. Also, Stranger Things, Dustin hat. I was gonna be him for Halloween, but I don't know. But yeah, I'm sure there's like even crazier sort of concepts out there, but I can't. I'm unaware of them. And it's just interesting to relate all these things back to what death could be, because I feel like maybe the answer is in front of us. Maybe we it's very obvious to us, and we're too gullible or something, or too self-important to realize. I feel like that might be the case. Who knows? It might be something very out of our depths of understanding, or it might be something very simple and something that we've been, shown since day one. Who knows? James says study was done not too long ago. The human sleep cycle, and stated it should be between the hours of dusk, 2 a.m., another hour or two up then, till dawn. It was very interesting. I heard about this. Somebody just did a book on it. I think Huffington did a book on it. Ariana Huffington did something about sleeping, and I watched an interview with her, and it was super interesting. I think she goes by that. I think that's how she works, that method. Ted says when you die, your soul gets collected or not. I think maybe if there is that sort of like somebody that's trying to get something from us, I think it's a lot like the Matrix, where maybe information and energy are sort of we're feeding something. I used to think that maybe existence, like we're just part of this thing that's feeding like this robot, a lot like the Matrix. And there's proof that we're living in a hologram, but I'm kind of over that hologram whatever the hologram is. I think of course we're kind of programmed in a way. Like it's I feel like that's obvious. I think just calling we live inside of hologram is just sort of clickbaity kind of thing that happens a lot. Like of course it's like a project, like everything is a project. This is a projection. Everything, like, I don't know. What if death was cured? Would that be good or bad? Trivia Brain said that. I don't know if you guys saw Black Mirror's episode, San Junipero. I believe it won an Emmy. Really good episode. Probably the least depressing episode of Black Mirror. There were some depressing elements of it, but it was overall pretty happy episode, depending on the way you look at it. So I don't want to ruin it, but basically in that episode they explore the idea that your mind can be uploaded to sort of like a cloud. Your consciousness can be uploaded to a cloud. So if death was ever cured, I think it would be from that sort of some sort of algorithm or program figures out what makes you down to like the very core, and probably even more. Maybe it could predict the way you will act as you age, or it might just keep you in this, like in that world they stay like the same age forever, and they're just in this San Junipero digital world forever. So really I think it'll be up to, again, they don't really go into the technical end of it, like the person die and their consciousness is just like they're almost like digitally cloned. They made it seem that the consciousness itself transfers over, so you don't like miss a beat. It's not like just this new person is living here, this like new version, this almost like a clone is living there. The way they make it seem is that like you actually transfer, like yourself, your being transfers into this thing as your body goes. So for something like that, I think that if death were ever to be cured, I think that would be the way. It'd be some sort of digital, digital pull. If they could ever figure out like how the brain actually, how to, pull you out of your brain, pull the consciousness, subconsciousness, whatever, out of your brain and into some kind of, program, hardware, something. But I think it'd be like in the show, it'd be a choice. You want to explore, move on, explore whatever the hell comes next. Maybe you want to take that, what you could see as a risk at that point, because there is another option. You could just, stay on Earth more or less. Even in a digital world, you're still, on Earth forever. Or you could, figure out try to find out what comes next. It's really interesting. You act like holographic foil blue eyes, white dragon. Your light is still traveling. I have all my blue eyes, white dragon still. I will never give them up. James says the entire episode is a metaphor for death. Look at the way they touched on self-perception and going from time period to time period based off nostalgic experience. Ted, I have no idea what you're talking about. It's that San Junipero episode messed me up for a little bit, but I loved it. It's like, I mean, so many of us spend our time playing video games anyway. Can't move forward. So it might seem appealing, and I'll like at the end of the at the end of the day, I'm gonna spoil it. So sorry if you guys haven't seen the episode, but it's literally, they kind of make love the ultimate, respite from death. The ultimate, like, they were able to fall in love in the program. It's like, it doesn't matter who you are. Like, they fell in love through it. And it sort of, it plays with all these ideas of death, but it's like, would you move on if, like, it's super interesting. Like, if you think of, like, if you sort of think of love as an element in itself, sort of like the fifth element, then that throws even weirder monkey wrench. And, like, nobody considers that, or it seems silly to consider that an actual, like, something, like some sort of force. But, like, it can do things to this thing. When you actually, it's weird if you, like, even talking about love in this context it's super weird and abstract. Only through death will we be informed by the fireman who Richard and Linda really is, and that'll be our interpretation of who they are. Actually, I want to do a video on Richard and Linda and sort of just talk about them for like an hour. So, Adamo, stay tuned. Ted says, love is such a temporary feeling. I won't bet on it. Ted. I don't know. Maybe I'm still young and naive and optimistic, but I think romantic love, I think that's what you're describing. But when I say love, I mean just sort of the bigger thing. Just sort of like the goodness, like the ball of white light. That kind of thing. Not romantic love. Because that's a very human thing. But again, that ties into the Black Mirror thing of this like very human thing in a digital space. There's also that element. James says basically meaning that the afterlife is what you want because of a complete set of options. Basically, I mean, you could, you know, go with the idea that your afterlife will be whatever in here is the most ideal thing, and that's, you know, that's what you see during that moment between, you know, all those chemicals reaching you at the point of death and like the actual physical body dying. This whole thing could be heaven on earth. It could be like your digital upload, like you just live until you live for lifetimes and maybe forever. Maybe you stay the same age in this thing and you like live a summer forever, like your favorite year or something. Whatever you like, really whatever you want, until maybe you realize that this isn't real and you come to terms with it, and then you say, okay, let's, you know, it's time to go. Like it's ready to, I'm ready to move on. So maybe you get one last option. Maybe we get an option and we don't even know it. Ted says, when I die, I can be with my ex-wife and her new husband. Or you could be with somebody different, man. Maybe there's just somebody, maybe you're, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not the love guru. I'm not Mike Myers. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that movie. Justin Timberlake's in that movie. But maybe that I'm really fixated on like that moment in between, like the point with all those chemicals flood you and the point where your body actually goes. Ted Belcher. Okay, thanks, I guess. I don't know. Is that real? But I'm really fascinated with the point where, like I said before, the point where all those chemicals flood you and the point where your body actually goes. Like, what is this space? Because if it is something where you're just filled with all these chemicals that would induce like DMT and all that stuff, what's it called? The pleasure chemical, endorphins and all this stuff. It's just there's so much that could happen in that space, especially if you subscribe to the sort of like the Inception theory, where you could just go deeper and then like time won't affect you because you're just so deep in it, and you know you live in this expansive world where dreams don't exist. Dopamine, thank you, trivia. Expansive plane where like time is just not, I mean, there might be concepts of time within it because it's coming from your subconscious, but like you could just live until you don't want to, like you don't want to anymore. You're ready to go. Maybe it's a lot like in movies where somebody will come and you'll be playing out in a field or somewhere drinking coffee at a cafe, and somebody will come sit next to you and tell you, like, give you the talk. So like it's time. Like maybe you'll end up in a hospital or something. I feel like there might be a tell, there might not. You might just live in this forever. I think right now this is going to be our sort of San Junipero digital world. It's the answer now, if that's what's happening. I'm just kind of romantic about that idea right now. But I don't know. I don't know if that's what happens, if you're just like stuck in this space forever. It's sort of almost an easy answer because we know what happens when those chemicals heat your brain. We know that time doesn't, play a part in dreams, really. It's almost like when you're born, like very few people remember being born. There's a point that you just start remembering, and then you live your life. So it's like almost like you're dropped into a dream anyway when you live your life. Now, people that say they remember when they're born, I'm a little skeptical about. I know there's some, you might remember like bright lights and, fuzzy things maybe, but it's a little, I don't know. I'm a little skeptical when people say they remember like their first year of living. There's pictures, of course, and you might sort of think you remember by looking at pictures, but I don't know. I'm skeptical. Wilton Abreu says, so if I were in San Junipero, why would I want to get married to the same person again? Unless you like truly were into that person and like you guys are like bonded for eternity. I don't, like, whatever. do you. Go You're in a world with a wealth of people from like all different ages and, you know, experiences. So I don't know. You could, and you could stay with the person, or you can't, or you wouldn't. In the show, her husband chose to move on. So I'm assuming if he had stayed, he might have, like, they might have still been together. But she found the nerdy one, who's, I forgot her name. Crap. She's a fantastic actress. Her and Mary Elizabeth Winstead need to be in the same movie, because they're like two of my favorite sci-fi realm like actresses, and they're just two of my favorites. What the heck was her name? It's gonna bother me. Let's see if I could find it. Mackenzie Davis. She was fantastic in that. James says Love Guru is a very good bad movie. Yeah. It cracks me up. I'm not ashamed to say it. It's not gonna, like, it never won an Academy Award or anything like that, but it's definitely good for sort of a dumb chuckle every once in a while. Trivia says, what if there was a carbon copy was created and you both die at the same time? I mean, whatever. Like, if you guys are set to be together for like forever, all of eternity, which I'm sure some people are. Some people are lucky enough to find something like that. Maybe they wanted something, like, for some reason they were, you know, they were bonded like that for what, like soulmate. Maybe that like is a real thing. Again, I don't know. There could be some sort of like tether for those people. Maybe there's some kind of like magnetism that's stemmed from like the stardust, if you want to get romantic about it. Again, I don't know. What about people who remember past lives? Any thoughts? I was thinking about this too. It's I don't have like a technical explanation for it. But like, I don't know if there's been any stories where people like sort of found pictures of a past life version of them or something. I know there's a lot of photos of like celebrities that look like people from old, you know, paintings and stuff. I'm sure there's like that for like everybody. I'm sure there's doppelgangers everywhere. I've seen my own some people say I look like some people used to say I look like Darren Criss. Some people say I look like Kit Harington from Game of Thrones. Somebody said I look like Jon Snow gave up, which I thought was really funny. People that remember past lives. Again, I think maybe it has something to do with the web. I think reincarnation might exist. I could like if we go with the information, the transfer of electricity information idea, it could just cycle back into our world, this plane. Like that's a potential. If we go with that idea, that can be something that happens. That they're just recycled back in for whatever reason. Maybe I don't know if it's like there's a celestial meaning behind it, like you have to go again, like you have to try it, you're not done yet, or something like that. Or if it's just like, you know, let's like, it just happens to, you know, work out that way. It just goes through and around and up, and that's it. So I don't know. That's how I see it. Maybe it's just like this person is just maybe there's like maybe in their mind they want to go, like I don't know. It's easier to say that they're just, you know, randomized and shot back into this stratosphere, and, you know, given another chance in this plane. Maybe that takes a long time. Like, who says? The thing is, like, when you die, and then you come back in the future, like somebody dies and like they find out they were Cleopatra in a past life or something like that. It's like, what is? I guess maybe when you die, you sort of exist out of that time space, and you're just like zipping at the speed of light and electricity, and you end up in the future. I don't know. Like, it's so crazy to think about. there's some remarkable evidence if they are true. I'd be interested in finding that out. Are you familiar with the concept of the Gestalt? I think that's what you're meaning to say. Maybe. If I am, I don't know the name of it. I don't know if I didn't know it was called this. I'm looking it up. An organized whole that is perceived as more than the sum of its parts. I don't know if I'm reading the right thing. I'm sort of just Googling things. Ability to acquire and maintain meaningful perceptions in an apparently chaotic world. Yes, I have heard of this. I haven't, really read up on it. But it's interesting because I feel like there is. Oh, trivia! I know that because I love Vonnegut. I have that on my phone actually. I have they gave out like a free version on Kindle, I believe. So I have that one. But I do, even with all this theorizing and stuff, I do think maybe it is a lot simpler than we think. Cross-reference with the Illuminatus trilogy. I shall. Oh, that's where you got it. You see, I haven't read it in a while, but thank you. I need to reread it. Apparently, it's hard to think something can be so simple, but I'm not totally adverse to like the idea that maybe, this is it. Maybe there isn't anything. Maybe we're just this is the range of motion. This is the way the pendulum swings. I believe maybe when you die, maybe your energy is transferred to something else to use. It's possible. And then that's the end of your consciousness or your soul or whatever. Or maybe it gets passed on to like a tree or maybe some kind of ant or something. And or maybe it's just pulled apart and pieces go everywhere and there's a little bit of you and everything. And maybe there's a little bit of a whole bunch of other people like you. And it's really weird. I think it's also abstract, but it might be just simple. We might be dummies for overthinking it. But again, it's all in, it's all human nature to want to understand it. So I don't blame myself. I don't blame anybody else for trying. Trivia says the most complex problem have such an easy solution that's overlooked. Isn't that Occam's razor? I believe that's what that's called. And that sort of haunts me. I'm like, do we know? Like, do we know already? And then and then that idea alone, thinking that we might have the answer already is, that can make you go crazy itself. It's like, why don't I know? Should I know? Are we being like, if there is a God, is he mocking us? It's like, you guys are talking about this for an hour. You guys talk about this for centuries, for the entire, since the birth of civilization. And I told, like, just make some, like, just do the thing. So I don't know. Like, maybe, like, there is a start and end. Maybe like, death is like, okay, you're good. You did the thing. I hope you enjoyed the game, the fun. Now it's somebody else's turn. So, or it's 5 other people's turn, because the world is super overpopulated. So like I don't know. Are we like a suction of energy in the universe because we're just like making all these babies and stuff? Are we just like just feeding off the unit? Maybe we're like, I don't know. Because I think electricity and energy are just like super important factors into understanding any of it. James, thanks for hanging out on this very weird stream. Thank you for your input. I appreciate it. Hope I see you again soon. Thanks. So it's there's something there. Like we know from those of us that watch Twin Peaks, electricity is super important. Electricity probably exists it exists in every like fabric of reality as we understand it. I think dark matter even works with electricity, I believe, from what I can recall. Again, I'm not a scientist, and I don't read like a crazy amount of scientific journals and studies and stuff. I get my information from a whole bunch of random places when I, get lost in the well of YouTube or the internet, and I'm like, what is dark matter? What is all this? Understanding quantum mechanics and stuff. But I'm not in the field. I'm not studying this stuff. So, I mean, it would be cool, but I don't know. I'm more of an artist type. I like the sciences, but I definitely like just making my silly things and going on my way. But it's so fascinating, and electricity is like it's everything. It converts regular matter into pure energy. It's I feel like the key is understanding electricity and I mean we know what makes up electricity for the most part, but I feel like there's something even on a deeper level that we're not able to see. I don't know if we'll ever be able to see, but I think there's just something more. There's something more. There's something there that wasn't. I forgot the lyrics. I was gonna sing Beauty and the Beast. There's something there that simply wasn't there before. So I think maybe in the future we'll get close. We'll see layers of things. I mean, we didn't know dark matter. What dark matter? We still don't know really what dark matter is. So it'd be interesting if we ever get to the point where we understand dark matter and the way and its role in our universe, the way we see it now. So I don't know. Basically, I don't know, and nobody really knows. If there's somebody that really knows, that they're holding on to that information, they're holding out on us. But again, I don't think anybody really knows, and you need some crazy amount of technology to understand dark matter and how electricity works on the microcosm level. But now talking about it before, I'm really sort of in love with the idea that there is information transferred on that micro level, like almost sort of like DNA, I guess, but not. I don't know if it's DNA or not. I'm just gonna call it DNA. Information is the best way to say it, because I mean you look at the way humans are birthed. These tiny little tiny so minuscule white little things filled with information, tons of information, enough to make one of these things. So who says that that's not there's not a way that moves or is extrapolated and transferred? And it's so bizarre. It's so bizarre to think why would it just exist in this little thing, and pretty much in everything around us. All the DNA is just everywhere, bacterial level. It's when you die, is what happens to that? I mean, I know you probably become part of the ground, but I feel like there's so much more information there that has to go. I don't know. Now I'm just rambling. All right, guys, it's been an hour. I hope this chat was interesting at all to you. So if you guys are new to the channel, subscribe. If you want some more pontification kind of videos, talking about all sorts of weird abstract life things or sci-fi theories or whatnot, there are more Twin Peaks videos coming. Final Dossier comes out in 10 days exactly. So once I get that and read some of it, we'll talk about it. Adamo, we might hear more about the frog moth in the next book, so stay tuned. Trivia says, it always seems that everything is within our reach, then new questions come up. That's the thing. It's just, we'll figure out this much, and then the question will just get this much bigger, and it's going to keep, you know, I think it's an infinity, whatever an infinity is, of questions. All right, guys, so I'm going to let you go for tonight, for this weekend. Maybe I'll do something tomorrow. Who knows? Walking Dead comes back tomorrow, so maybe I'll touch that. Make a video about that. We'll see. We'll see how I'm feeling. So thank you guys for watching again. Thank you all for tuning in on a Saturday night. On such a, you know, abstract, weird, you know, typically depressing topic that I think we did a good job not making so depressing, and we kind of made it abstract and kind of fun. So again, thank you guys, and I shall catch you in the next video. Thank you all who tuned in. I really appreciate it. Sincerely. All right, guys. See you later.